Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Nerd Ledger. I am Cage. That is Chair. We are
Chair
here.
here on the internet.
Yeah. Well, not. Oh, yeah, I didn't do the streamy thing, but
It's probably for the best. Let's not get ahead of our skis. Let's just get back to the normal thing where we don't have to get bummed out after 30 minutes because of desynced and we're like talking over each other because there's like 13-second delay.
yeah.
We need to get back into like a regular groove now that we have like modern technology, meaning your wife's laptop.
Yes, that is true. Also, so last week because I used it for the first time when I did because it's just recording like a video. So when I just uploaded it as a video. So then it became a video podcast, and ain't nobody watching that shit. So I will convert it to audio, and I will save
Did
the
anyone
video.
watch? Did anyone watch? Would anyone listen if it was audio? Really, Cage? Really? Come on, man.
I mean,
Other than you and my, other than you and myself.
I can give you the statistics.
Okay, 10.
All
right, well, I guess I need to bum myself out even more today. So yeah, go ahead.
No,
I'm
yeah.
just kidding. I'm
Maybe
just kidding. It's
you
a fun
know
little thing.
you know what it is. Maybe people just
Yeah.
didn't watch Skeleton Crew or don't like it.
Yeah.
I'd say on average we get 2 to 5 plays an episode, but on the Skeleton Crews it's between 0 and 1. So, maybe people just didn't watch it or didn't like it or think that we're stupid. Who knows?
Hard to tell.
Yeah, but today we'll talk about some nerd news, and I kind of have a little topic we can talk about because I think it's interesting. But really, there's not a lot of nerd news because most of it is fucking stupid. There's only a couple like real pieces of news. One is like Benedict Cumberbatch pretty much said he's not going to be in Doomsday as Doctor Strange, but he will be. He's quite central to the plot of Secret Wars, and he's interested for the future of Doctor Strange. There's no real news there. Bo DeMayo, who was the showrunner for X-Men 97, is still complaining online about how Marvel ruined everything and how they're awful and how they butchered all his storylines. So there's that. And then this is something I don't know if you've heard about, but apparently there are some sexual assault allegations against Neil Gaiman.
Oh boy, back to this.
No,
No, I don't know who Neil Gaiman is, to be
you
100% honest with
don't?
you. No, you have to remind me of that one.
So Neil
There's
Gaiman,
so many famous. There's so many famous people out there, dude, that I don't give a fuck about.
Neil Gaiman is a famed fantasy writer.
Okay.
He is also a graphic novel author. So he created Sandman. He wrote American Gods. He's done a bunch of other fantasy novels like Norse mythology and some other stuff. I don't know if they talk about it in this article, but pretty much this article is just saying he responded to the allegations and said, "I've never engaged in non-consensual sexual activity." That's what he said. He wrote that on his blog. He addressed various reports about him, noting that he had chosen to stay quiet out of respect for the people who were sharing their stories, as well as a desire to not draw even more attention to what he claims is misinformation. In his lengthy response, he acknowledges that he mishandled personal relationships and said he was emotionally unavailable while being sexually available, self-focused, and not as thoughtful as he could or should have been. However, when it comes to the more serious allegations made against him, Gaiman said adamantly that they were not true. He said, "Some of the horrible stories now being told simply never happened, while others have been so distorted from what actually took place that they bear no relationship to reality. I am prepared to take responsibility for any missteps I made. I'm not willing to turn my back on the truth, and I can't accept being described as someone I am not, and cannot and will not admit to doing things I didn't do." So that's what he said. Allegations against him first surfaced in July of last year when Tortoise Media, I don't know if that's a legitimate media site, but apparently it's called Tortoise Media. They reported that Gaiman had been accused of sexual assault by 2 women. A couple weeks ago, New York Magazine wrote a more detailed report on the incident, with writer Lila Shapiro speaking to 8 women, 4 of whom also participated in Tortoise's podcast series. The New York Magazine report featured stories from the women that alleged that Gaiman sexually assaulted them and also had a preference for rough sex and BDSM activities that he would not seek consent for beforehand. The article also features claims from a former babysitter for Gaiman and Amanda Palmer.
Can I just interject here real quick, guys? As someone who's engaged in that kind of behavior, you're supposed to seek consent beforehand.
Absolutely. Absolutely, yeah.
That's a very essential part. That's actually kind of part of it. That's like a really big part of it.
Yeah,
Actually, is that the environment you create the environment you create for each other is incredibly safe to engage in these things. You know, and it's not just safe for one person. Like the power structure is all fake, right? That's the idea.
Yeah, you don't get like a sexual partner into bed and then just start like whipping them and trying to tie them up and shit. You know, like this stuff has to be discussed beforehand.
Yeah.
You know, like
insane. Okay, please. So anyway, please continue. Just want to put that out there. You know, just make sure anyone was like confused or any fucking stupid shit like that. Like, you know, just really hammer that one home. Like, you know.
Yeah. No, the last bit is that the article features a claim from a former babysitter for Gaiman and Amanda Palmer, his ex-wife, who met the pair when she was 18 and who alleges that Gaiman attempted to sexually assault her when on his tour bus. I mean, we don't know anything. He's claiming it's false. There's a lot of people. I mean, 8 women is crazy. But it's, you know, it's very similar to the Jonathan Majors thing in the way that, like, you don't really know. And when we talked about Jonathan Majors, you know, we went pretty hard, you know, like, because, I mean, you know, it seems very likely that he did some fucked up shit. And yes, now he's still with the victim and all this stuff, and his career is potentially ruined. And none of that stuff really concerns me. Like, plenty of terrible people are still employed. I mean, most of them are terrible people. Let's be honest. When I say them, I mean actors. But yeah, no, I don't. For me, I always can separate like the art from the artist. I'm not gonna not see a movie because a terrible person's in it or whatever. Like if it's something I'm interested in. So it is what it is. But yeah, that's all the Neil Gaiman stuff. And the only reason I really bring up the Jonathan Majors thing is because obviously it had a huge impact on the future of the MCU. And
a huge impact. Like they had to change the entire. This is as big. Like again, this is the second time that you and I have known that the MCU has failed like in any way. The other time was with what happened with the Inhumans or whatever that was or whatever. Like that. Remember that whole thing that was supposed to be after the original Avengers? They were going to go in a completely different direction, but then they just went with Agents of Shield and like carried that into Ultron, which is why that whole arc really did feel pretty weak.
Well, there was a plan for Inhumans to be a movie, and it was supposed to come out in 2018, and then they pivoted and said no, we'll release it as a TV show, which came out like a year before that. But despite the fact that it was not an awful TV show, it wasn't what it could have been and what people expected it to be. And even then, we finally get Black Bolt in live action, and people had a problem with that too. I thought he looked good. I mean, I get it. Like he, you know, it's not a very comic accurate representation of how Black Bolt maybe would have behaved, in the sense that he's like ultra trained since like childhood not to like make any noises. So like, you know, there's no way really that Scarlet Witch would make his mouth disappear and he would like audibly make a sound and explode his own brain, you know. But you can make it work in universe. It doesn't really matter. But anyway, yeah, no. On the point of on the MCU and all the change, like it's pretty crazy to think about, like the fact that we haven't really had a MCU movie since November of 2023. And the next one is Captain America 4, which comes out February 14th. We're seeing it on the 13th, you know, the preview day.
Yep.
But, I mean, technically, Deadpool and Wolverine is an MCU movie, but it's not really, right? Like, it's still kind of a self-contained story.
Yeah. It's just like, it's more of a really, Deadpool and Wolverine was more of a really smart business decision than anything else. Does that make sense to you? Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, like, I mean, Deadpool is a hot commodity and has been for decades at this point. I remember when I was like when I was in high school and I was really actively involved with comic books and everything else, and I would go to the comic book store like every day. Most of the people coming in were people who were interested in reading Deadpool. I remember Deadpool was in everything at that point too. Like kids growing up around, maybe a decade ago plus 15, maybe 15-ish, 18-ish years ago, like Deadpool was really growing. Because those runs on Deadpool were really good, and then he'd show up in like Moon Knight, which was really cool as well. Like there was like all these different things happening. Hitmonkey at the same time with Deadpool, so it was a really popular character. And then when the first movie came out, and then the second movie, like he's one of the hottest commodities that Marvel has, and so now with him being involved with the MCU, you're gonna get naturally a bunch more eyes on it. And that's what makes it a smart business. Like they knew they'd make over $1 billion with that movie.
Absolutely, it's just a really smart business decision. Really smart.
And when you consider all the movies that weren't making very much money that came before it, such as the Marvels and Quantumania, like movies that people maybe enjoyed, but they didn't do well critically or in the box office. I'm not sure how Wakanda Forever did, but the MCU has definitely been having some struggles, and that's why I think we haven't got anything proper in terms of a movie since the Marvels, and they're reworking all this Kang stuff.
Yeah. Which is absolutely huge, by the way. Like rewrite, like they had one whole movie that was essentially basically the introduction to Kang, and that whole movie is essentially moot now, as far as I'm aware. Ant-Man Quantumania.
Yeah,
like
I mean, to me,
that whole doesn't make any sense anymore. Like the whole infamous MCU post credit scene was dedicated to Kang.
Yeah, I mean, there have been other post-credit scenes that have gone nowhere as well, but at the same time, it's like you're building.
This is the first, but this just isn't just like going to nowhere. This is like, okay, we had an idea and now we have to go back on it. What we showed and put out in theaters because it's like this guy's personal behavior because we look like a bunch of hypocrites.
I mean, not only that, but he was an integral part of both seasons of Loki as well.
Yeah.
Right. And so
that's right. Yeah.
Like he was planned to be the guy, right? Like the guy, and so now it's not him, so they're obviously having to do some reworks, and at the same time obviously it's going to take some time because they're putting a lot into Fantastic Four, and now Avengers, the Kang Dynasty has become Avengers Doomsday, and so there's a lot happening, but I think the MCU really didn't start falling off until like COVID era.
Yeah, I really felt like the Ten Rings was the last really like genuine like wow, like when you go into the movies and like see something that really just knocked it, like because again, Deadpool and Wolverine was fun to watch. I really enjoyed it. It was very entertaining, but it was just so produced it was like so designed in a laboratory to be good. Like it's impossible for me to like say that's like the pinnacle of like the MCU, right? I think a lot of people are going to say it's the pinnacle of the MCU, but to me it isn't, because I think there's a lot more just better pieces of like work in here,
Right. Yeah, well, like if you look at Phase 3, right, which was just like insane, like banger after banger pretty much. Right,
yeah,
you had Civil War kicking it off. You had Doctor Strange, Guardians 2, Homecoming, Ragnarok, Black Panther, Infinity War. Ant-Man and the Wasp was kind of Captain Marvel, which made a bunch of money, but people didn't really like. And then Endgame and Far From Home, which people will say is the worst of the 3 Spider-Man movies from Marvel. But like that's an insane slate of movies to then jump straight into Phase 4, starting with Black Widow in 2021 with COVID going on, right? And then Shang-Chi came out.
Oh, Black Widow! I still haven't watched Black Widow.
Really?
I should lay in my bed and watch Black Widow one of these days. I really should.
It's not awful. It's just kind of whatever. But
I think I skimmed it. I think I did the version of like skimming a movie, where I just kind of skipped through.
Yeah. But Black Widow started Phase 4, right? And it's after you have that amazing Phase 3, you're just like, it's kind of whatever. And then Shang-Chi came out. People like Shang-Chi. I think overwhelmingly. Shang-Chi was really, people really liked it. I thought it was amazing. Um, and then Eternals, which a lot of people found very disappointing as well. The best
Yeah,
movie of
I I
Phase.
like I liked Eternals personally, but I
Yeah, I
know
didn't hate
also
it.
it just didn't have to do with anything. I
Yeah,
think is a good way of describing it. Like it literally was like a pointless movie. Like it introduced like the Celestials, like the kind of thing that we already sort of knew about, kind of from Guardians of the Galaxy. But other than that, like eh.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then Spider-Man: No Way Home obviously was the best movie of Phase Four. Um,
Yep.
and then we had Multiverse of Madness, which Multiverse of Madness and Thor: Love and Thunder were both, I think, victims of COVID in the way that like they were announced in
Yeah.
2019 or something. They came out 3 years later.
I I think Love and Thunder 2 is also like Taika Waititi like being a victim of his like own pride in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
When he
yeah,
just tried to, okay, I'm gonna paint my humor over all of this, and it's just gonna work out like all my other movies worked out.
yeah. That's true. And then Phase Four rounded out with Wakanda Forever, which was, I liked that movie a lot.
Yeah, I think a lot of people did.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not a movie I can watch more than a couple times just because it's very
Yeah,
sad.
it's been
Like
a
it's very
very long
heavy.
Yeah, it's been a very long time since I've seen a movie that like what movie I can rewatch all the time is the original Avengers, the very first one.
Yeah.
Like I that movie is special. Like it really is. I think we're gonna look back one day and we're gonna realize that the first Avengers movie, and you can correct me if you think this is wrong, but it's probably like the best Avengers movie out of all of them so far. Like I
Um,
don't know, like
I think it depends on the kind of person you are. Like,
mhm,
obviously, it's all gonna be in the eye of the beholder and all that stuff. I think most people would say Infinity War is the best Avengers movie.
yeah.
Some people would say Civil War, even though it's a Captain America movie, not an Avengers movie.
Yeah.
But
I think Civil War is my favorite MCU movie.
yeah, well, and at the time, it got a lot of hate just because it's so different from Civil War in the comics. But of course, it was going to be, and it had
Mhm.
to be. And just like, I remember when it was announced, and people would be having the arguments that, well, you can't do Civil War without Spider-Man. You can't do it without Spider-Man because Spider-Man's so important in the comic book version of Civil War. I was like, no, you can. Like, it's not going to be the same thing, obviously. Like, you don't need Spider Man there doing what he did and all this stuff. And then
Mhm.
eventually it was announced that, hey, Spider Man will make his first appearance in the MCU in Civil War. And I still was telling people, well, it won't be in the same capacity. He won't be there to take off his mask and side with Iron Man and all this stuff. Yes, he sided with Iron Man, but he was. That movie could have had no Spider Man and been the same exact movie.
Yeah. I don't
So,
know. For my movie, I really like Civil War because I just like Baron Zemo just tearing the Avengers
yeah.
apart by being like a cool secret agent. I thought the guy playing Baron Zemo is also a really gifted actor, and he was in All's Quiet on the Western Front as well, and speaking fluent German and everything because like, he's a German person.
Yes.
But he's a really good actor, is what I went down to, and I really enjoyed his performance. Those things that really sold me for Civil War.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to the Avengers, I genuinely think the first Avengers is an amazing movie, and
Mm.
it it's a movie that you can just go back to
Again and
anytime,
again,
right? Like,
yeah, and just watch it.
yeah, and you don't need anything before. Like, you don't need to watch any other MCU movie to just watch that movie and enjoy it, right? It's just it's just great for what it is. Whereas like so many other things are built upon each other, which makes it very difficult. It could be one of those things where it's like this is why the MCU is maybe not performing as well as it used to because now people have to watch like 30 movies just to understand this one movie, and it
Hmm.
really shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
But it kind of is. But yeah, after Phase Four, you jump into Phase Five with Quantumania, which is like a fun little sci-fi movie that
Yeah.
now is almost pointless in some
Pointless.
ways.
It's totally pointless, man. That
Yeah.
sucks. Like it really does. Like it's the whole movie's been rendered moot, and because I like sci-fi. Like I'm a sci-fi guy. I enjoy the like quirky little science fiction, and it just it sucks that movie got like that just really fun, unique sort of just it was almost Star Warsy in a way. Remember I was telling you that like
Mm-hmm.
it's almost Star Warsy in its own like specific way.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah. So we had that, and then Guardians Volume 3, which was really good, and did make a bunch of money, but
Mm.
it's one of those things where it's like the meme of like MCU's dead, MCU's back kind of thing, you know? Because
Yeah,
then
yeah,
you jump to the Marvels, which we both really enjoyed.
yeah.
But you know, it's just a fun movie. It's not like, again, it's not necessary watching for MCU fans or anything, and people, you know, just sometimes people don't want to go to the movies.
Yeah, and going to the movies is also expensive, you
Incredibly
know?
expensive, and it keeps going up too. Why are matinee tickets almost $17?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yes, and then that was in November of 2023, the last proper Marvel movie we had, and then in July of last year we had Deadpool and Wolverine, which again, you know, MCU back, and now we're going into a year with three massive two massive, one massive MCU movie, and two potentially very good MCU movies. Who knows? But we kick it off with Brave New World, Captain America 4 in February. And then in May is Thunderbolts, which who knows? Who knows how that will go?
Mhm.
And Thunderbolts wraps up Phase 5. And then we jump into Phase 6 in July with the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
So, and then we have to wait a year almost, 10 months to get Avengers Doomsday.
Mhm.
And also potentially another Spider-Man movie is coming in July of next year. So where we're at with all of this is we really haven't had that much MCU content, significant content. I mean, we had Agatha this year. We had Loki season 2. But you can definitely tell there's been a strategy shift here from Disney and Marvel. And part of it is Jonathan Majors being fired, but the other part of it is, I think they realize what's happening in the way that there's been too much, right? And now they're gonna try to focus more on the quality over the quantity.
Yeah. And hopefully we'll just get some deep MCU movies. I'm really still off put by Robert Downey Jr. being cast as Doctor Doom myself. But all we can do is help. You know, like I said, the MCU is going through a rough patch. You're right. The MCU is so over. It's so back. Like that's definitely a thing that's happened a couple times now. We've talked about that vibe in here before, but it's obviously rudderless. Like there's that's obviously a thing too. And I think this Jonathan Majors things really didn't help at all.
No,
Like at all.
absolutely. Like
Yeah.
nothing has hurt the MCU as much as this Jonathan Majors thing, right?
Yeah.
And Marvel chose to go one way with it. I guess you could say it was like it's similar to what happened with James Gunn in the way that like when James Gunn's old tweets resurfaced, Marvel kind of panicked and they're just like, no, yeah, we got to let him go. We're firing him off of Guardians 3. We're not or whatever, right? Which is ultimately why we waited 6 years after Guardians 2 for Guardians 3. Because all the cast pretty much said, well, we're not doing it without him. Like, I don't care. You can fine us, whatever. I know it's in our contract, but rip it up because we're not doing the movie without him. And, you know, James Gunn was kind of a victim of cancel culture in a lot of ways. Like, were his tweets that serious? Maybe, maybe not. Do we really know? Who knows? But, you know, a couple mad people on Twitter ended up, you know, freaking Disney out enough to get him fired. And the complete opposite thing happened with Ezra Miller, who all this shit came out about, and Warner Brothers just like
Kept succeeding. He just kept
whatever.
succeeding. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then, I mean, The Flash didn't do that well, and part of that I think does come down to Ezra Miller being the Flash. And then with Jonathan Majors, it's like they waited a long time before they did anything about it, right? And that's
Yep.
all they really could do because Kang was such an important part of their plan. And even without Jonathan Majors, you could you opened your world to variants and all this other stuff. Like you have 3 different actors playing Peter Parker in the same movie. You could have recast it if you wanted to.
Mm.
But they chose not to. At this point, I mean, who knows what the future holds, but they chose to pivot, go straight for Doctor Doom, and then apparently everything's clicking on that side because they got RDJ coming and all this stuff. And the only real way that works for me, I've said it many times here, but the only way it works for me to have RDJ play Doom is if he never takes off his mask. And if he does, he's like burnt to a fucking crisp, like his face is like deformed. So that's the only way it really works for me. But it's all to be seen.
Yeah.
And just so you know, the reason why I didn't read much comic book news is because literally every piece of news just says rumor. And I hate talking about rumors. Like I'm just going to scroll through this. I'm going to read all these rumor headlines. Rumor: Deadpool and Wolverine to return for Avengers Doomsday. Rumor: The Mandalorian and Ahsoka crossover to become series if Grogu movie flops. Rumor: Ahsoka season 2 to bring back Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like, this is just people trying to get like clicks on social media, and they just put all this shit out there. There's more. I know, I'm gonna find him. Oh, did you watch the here we go. Rumor: Doctor Strange 3 and Shang-Chi 2 get release date updates. How is that a rumor? Like, people just making shit up. Black Panther: Damson Idris responds to T'Challa recast rumors. Rumor: Benedict Wong to lead Strange Academy series, Doctor Strange to cameo. Rumor: Marvel wants a Deadpool and Wolverine trilogy with Hugh Jackman. Rumored: Tangled live-action remake still eyeing Florence Pugh for Rapunzel. Rumor: Black Panther could cast Jonathan David Washington as new T'Challa.
It's all rumors, unsubstantiated.
A rumor: Star Wars Rogue Squadron movie eyeing Chris Pine to lead cast. Oh, there was also a rumor that's not here about Ryan Gosling being cast in a future Star Wars movie. Like, this is what the news is these days. And I don't care to read all of it because it's all just going to be these Hollywood insiders who don't actually know anything. But yeah, did you see the Daredevil trailer?
No, I have not yet. I know you said it was really gritty and in line with the Netflix one though, and that's what I'm expecting. Like after I think that Andor really kind of pushing the envelope for the intensity in Star Wars is going to spill over to the rest of Disney as them kind of stress testing of what they can and can't get away with, And there was also a lot of really intense violence in so I think that it's going to keep getting a lot. I think I'm happy with what's going to happen. I don't really think I need to watch a trailer because I think it's just going to be what we were all hoping for. Just the continuation of the original sort of stuff from Daredevil. I don't really see because again Disney is really smart when they make business decisions, right? They're doing Daredevil because they know there's a huge fan base out there that really appreciated the Disney Daredevil, because Daredevil was on Netflix and that series and Luke Cage and the Iron Fist and Jessica Jones, maybe all the Mert is great. Like you and I both remember we talked about the Iron Fist a lot, wishing it would have been a lot more fun and happy and campy, considering it's a bit more ridiculous compared to the other things like Luke Cage. Luke Cage and Jessica Jones and Daredevil were also depressing. It would have been cool if the dude with the literal magical iron chi fist was more happy-go-lucky rather than just being depressed and trapped in an asylum and all that kind of stuff, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But I just think that that's a really smart business decision. So I don't even know if I need to watch it. What's the point? Other than seeing the costume that I know I'm gonna see in the movie in the movie anyway, or in the show rather.
Yeah. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. But also, what's coming out next week? A week from today is the Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man animated cartoon. That's going to be on Disney Plus. Who knows if that'll be good. That was supposed to be freshman year. It was supposed to have Tom Holland voicing him. And I don't know. That was announced 4 years ago. And so we're getting something. Don't know how good it'll be.
Things change, man. Things change all the time.
Things change. So there's a lot of stuff coming out this year, as far as MCU goes. And so, I don't know. That's not really an MCU thing. But, to me, 2024 was a pivotal year for Marvel because it showed that people still are largely interested in X-Men. and it's one of their greatest commodities they have. Like we saw the success of X-Men '97 and Deadpool and Wolverine, and so moving forward, hopefully we get more content like that from Disney, and then this year we'll see if there's finally a very good Fantastic Four movie. Who knows? Do you think it can be done?
The Fantastic Four movie?
Yeah, do you think we'll finally get a good Fantastic Four movie?
I don't know if this one's gonna be it. I think it could be done. Is this one gonna be it? I don't know because I haven't seen this movie yet. You know me, man. I'm the worst. I'm like I'm the worst.
No, yeah. Well, I mean, I think we have the same philosophical outlook on most things. Is like
Yeah.
you just kind of have to wait and see.
Yeah.
But I have high hopes. I have high hopes for this Fantastic Four movie. I think I think the MCU as as a creative force has kind of proven itself, and not everything's a hit. Like you before it's like what's gonna be, it's gonna be good, right?
Hmm.
And now some of that feels like it's questionable here or there, but I still believe in their ability to make great, creative, interesting superhero movies. So, but anyway, any thoughts? Any thoughts on that?
Um, no, not really. Because basically, like, we're of the same mind, which I think we have good synergy for this podcast. Sometimes we differ in approach, but like, it's basically like the same thing. Like, there's movies coming out. Hopefully, these movies will be good and not shit. And like, there's movies from things we want to see. I remember watching the original Fantastic Four in theaters. Like, it put me in a little bit of a Fantastic Four kink. Like, just a Fantastic Four path. Like, I had like the Fantastic Four screensaver and a
Mm,
background on my computer. I went to the official movie website and downloaded all that stuff from my computer. And you could read comic PDFs online, and flip through them and stuff like that. I'm based off that one comic book. Of course, I was naturally the biggest Fantastic Four fan in the world or whatever.
yeah.
But I still just don't like reading comics. But with that being all said, though, like I think that it's more than capable of getting a Fantastic Four movie. I hope that Disney can do it. Disney's the best one equipped to do it. The MCU's been going for a long time. They made a lot of good movies. They made some bad. They haven't made like a movie that's genuinely awfully shit bad. Like all the movies they made that are bad are just average, right? Like Love and Thunder, right? Love and Thunder was just average. It wasn't bad, but it's just kind of a waste of Christian Bale as a freaking villain in the MCU, going all in on this freaking one
Yeah.
character on a on a one-off movie. That really sucks that they spent the Bale energy on that because he went all in for that shit. But it is what it is. We all can't win whenever we want to.
Yeah.
Um, but that movie was still just okay. It wasn't like bad. They haven't made a straight up bad movie yet.
Well, there are
So
people who would argue that it is actually bad, but
Love and Thunder.
that's just the internet for you. They hate
Well, yeah,
everything.
yeah, they hate
So,
everything. Well,
um,
based off like just pure like box office performance, they haven't like the only thing I think is like the Marvels 2, and that's just again because again, people are stressed out right now. They're not gonna go see a movie that's kind of like okay, like it's just kind of okay. It's not good, it's not great. They want to go see an MCU movie that's gonna change their fucking lives, right? They're not gonna
yes.
go see just the okay MCU movie. So it's just you got to make it or break it these days. So either it'll be really good, it'll be bad, or it'll just kind of meh, and that's okay.
Yeah. Um, yeah, just so I'll just go through some of the other major movies coming out this year, not ones
Mm,
that we're necessarily going to see, but ones that are going to get hype. So really the first one on the list for us is Captain America 4 on Valentine's Day, and then you have Snow White, which is March 21st, which has all sorts of bad press.
mm.
Minecraft, the movie, on April 4th. Are you interested in at all in that?
Not really.
Yeah.
I may go see it. I really should have seen Sonic 3 because I heard it was really good, but I didn't go and see it because I just haven't had the time to
Well,
make it.
it must be good
I've
because they
been
announced Sonic 4 today.
oh wow. Yeah, but I just haven't really spent a lot of time doing things lately. I've been just really kind of trapped in front of my computer, trapped in the
Mm,
house. So I
yeah.
want to go see the Minecraft movie, but also they open up with the dumbest fucking joke. They open up with as a child I yearned for the mines, right? Like that's just such a meme kind of reference,
Well,
dumb joke. I think the whole movie is just gonna be a bunch of memes.
it's
So it
Jack Black. He is a meme,
I
at
know.
this
I think
point.
the whole movie is gonna be, I think the problem is like it's not the movie like Minecraft's about like childlike wonder and being able to be like hyper creative, right? And I just don't think the movie's gonna be that. I think the movie's gonna be weird and lame, and it's gonna be like just a giant thing, so like 10-year-olds can go in and clap their hands and have a bunch of references to their favorite YouTubers and all that kind of stuff. Like I'm
Yeah.
worried that like this game that was that is still kind of a revolution in gaming, like survival craft. Minecraft started survival crafting. Survival crafting started DayZ. DayZ made a mode called King of the Hill. King of the Hill evolved into what Fortnite is today. And it also basically Minecraft is the river. Like that, it's the spring that it all came from. This infinite, sprawling, vast world that you can express yourself infinitely creatively in any way you want to, just with the simple act of placing a block,
Yeah.
right? And I just wish that the Minecraft movie had more effort into this, into becoming okay, guys, it's trendy now. Minecraft's pretty trendy, so let's make a trendy Minecraft movie to cash in some bucks at the box office, because that's what it feels like. And maybe I'm just kind of this guy that really like wishes, oh man, I wish like I could get all this. I wish I could like every movie could be deep and emotional and all that stuff. And it doesn't have to be, but you also get movies that are soulless, like the Borderlands movies,
I knew you
which
were gonna
don't
say
which
that.
which don't do well. They don't do well. Everyone clowns on it, including the critics, and then it just falls into obscurity. And then they're too gun shy to make another one ever again, unless there's someone passionate like me who comes in one day who grew up with like Borderlands and loved it, and now has way too much money to spend. Like okay, let's make a good Borderlands movie, and just like and bankroll the whole thing. Basically, that's how that shit happens, right? If someone who
Yeah.
like really loves like with what happened with Tintin, right? With the Adventures of Tintin in 2001. Someone really loved that. A bunch of people who really loved the Adventures of Tintin, an old school comic book from like the 1800s, like they just turned it into its own thing, and it was like cool and stuff, and it was a great movie, but it got bankrolled. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. On April 18th, 2 days before Easter, is the Passion of the Christ Resurrection.
Oh yeah.
Um, on April 25th is a movie called Until Dawn. Don't know what that is. Isn't there a video game series called Until Dawn?
Yeah, but it was also the video game was essentially a horror movie that you could play, right? So I can
So
make that
is the
easily.
movie based on that, or
Maybe I don't know. I
no
haven't
idea?
seen.
Okay.
I'm not really much of a horror gamer because if I want to scare myself, I just go look in a mirror. So
Same.
Yeah, so I play some horror games. I think that when I think they're funny, at least I play them. But most of the time I don't. So yeah.
Yeah. Also on April 25th is The Accountant 2. I've never seen The Accountant 1, but I've heard about
My,
it.
my dad really loves that movie.
Yeah. May 2nd is Marvel's Thunderbolts. May 9th is a movie called Atlantis. Don't know what it's about, but I mean, I know what was it Disney that did Atlantis?
Mm-hmm.
Well, oh, maybe, no, probably not. May 16th, Final Destination Bloodlines. So more Final Destination. May 23rd, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. Hopefully, it is the final movie of the Mission Impossible series. I've never watched any of them, but it seems like there's a lot. Also on May 23rd is the live-action Lilo and Stitch. Were you a big Lilo and Stitch fan growing up?
I was, but I'm not gonna watch that movie.
Yeah, I was also. I remember I even watched the show on the Disney Channel that they made, the spin-off show of Lilo and Stitch. But yeah, I might see it depending on my wife's interest. May 30th, Karate Kid Legends. I've never seen any Karate Kid movies, but I know that they're popular. So
Into the apparently that show, the Karate Kid came out. There was about the guy he fought, Cobra Kai. Remember? Remember he was
yeah. So
apparently
Cobra Kai
that
is very popular on Netflix.
apparently that but not just popular, but I've been told by a lot of people that I trust that it's actually very good and like heartwarming
I've
and like all
also heard that.
that stuff. So I think that I again, this is that thing where it's like, okay, someone who loved the Karate Kid, and like, what if Cobra Kai, like there's some guy with a good Cobra Kai story, maybe you want to check it out, and like, yeah, I want to bankroll, like the studio wants to bankroll this because someone's nostalgic about the Karate Kid.
Yeah. Yeah. So, on June 6th is Ballerina, which is the spin-off of John Wick starring Anna de Armas, and apparently Keanu Reeves will make some sort of appearance in that.
Hmm.
June 13th is Pixar's Elio, which is an animated movie, and also How to Train Your Dragon in live action. You're gonna,
Yeah, I'm not
yeah,
seeing that either.
okay. Um, June 20th is 28 Years Later, which is a sequel to 28 Days Later, which was a zombie movie, not the movie with Sandra Bullock in Rehab. Yeah? Okay. I'm just
Yeah,
gonna.
I didn't watch it. That's the problem. Like I didn't watch 28 Days Later. Everyone told me it's a really good zombie movie, but I just never watched it. You know, like I don't know why, but it's just there's so many movies out there, man, to watch, and it's like
Yeah, no,
yeah.
I haven't watched it. I haven't watched it either. June 27th, you got your double feature of F1, which I'm assuming is about Formula One racing, and Megan 2.0, which is the sequel to the horror
Mega
film.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
July 2nd is Jurassic World Rebirth. That's right, another Jurassic movie. I think this one has what's her face in it, Scarlett Johansson. Um, July 4th, apparently this is a major release. Matt Stone and Trey Parker musical. Don't know what that is, but they're the creators of South Park. And apparently they have a musical coming out. July 11th is Superman. July 18th, I Know What You Did Last Summer, and the Smurfs musical. Both come out on that day. Then July 25th is Fantastic Four First Steps. August 1st is The Bad Guys 2, which is a sequel to an animated movie about scummy animal characters. I don't remember.
Yeah, I think that was DreamWorks, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I think it
Don't
was
know.
DreamWorks.
On that day is also the Naked Gun reboot. Never saw
Ugh,
Naked Gun, so
I did, but because I'm a comedy dumb, you know, I'm a dumb comedy stoner you know, one of your favorites. But you know, The Naked Gun, Leslie Nielsen, classic comedy. It was just over the top slapstick humor the entire time. The first few watches are really entertaining, like you know, because you never know like what kind of just dumb, silly shit they're gonna hit you with, you know.
yeah.
So that can be that's a lot of fun.
And anybody listening, as you can tell, no original movies here, only IPs and uh,
Hmm.
sequels and all that.
Yeah.
And in that same vein, on August 8th is Freakier Friday, the sequel to Freaky Friday, and I'm pretty sure it's the same. I'm pretty sure it's Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis coming back for that. Never saw Freaky Friday, so don't care. September 5th, The Conjuring Last Rites, another horror film. Don't watch horror films. Apparently, you don't either, right?
Yeah, I watched The Conjuring.
Oh.
Sorry, what you say? The Conjuring, what's coming out?
The Conjuring Last Rites.
Oh, I mean, maybe because the Conjuring is kind of like action horror, if that makes any sense to you. Like, right? Like, does that make a lot of sense?
Sure. Yeah. I don't really watch horror movies, so I just got to take your word for it. But yeah, September 12th is another horrifying movie called Downton Abbey 3. I didn't know that they made movies of Downton Abbey, but now there are 3 of them. September 26th, Saw 11. They've made that many Saw movies. Have you
Yes,
watched the Saw movies?
I've watched a couple of them. Yeah, because like the traps are really funny. Like, there's some that
Mm.
are just really funny and dumb.
I've seen some in like doctor react videos on YouTube.
Yeah, a lot of the Saw movies are just like they just got like a hardcore fan base.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there you go, right? Bankrolling because popularity and all that. October 10th is Tron Ares. Another thing I've never been into is Tron. Never saw the
So
Tron movie.
Tron Legacy, you should really watch Tron Legacy if you get the chance. Tron Legacy was a really good movie that came out in the early 2010s.
Yes, video game.
No, not a
Well,
video
no, the
game.
video game came out in like
It
the
was
80s, right? It was like one of the first.
it was an arcade cabinet. Yes, it was a very old school arcade cabinet. It had 6 different games built into it, so it was very unique and it
Hmm.
became very popular very quickly. They made a very strange movie in the 90s about it that was very just surreal and trippy. It was, but also, you know, like you talk about with Star Wars, right? they were experimenting with this new technology. It was called green screen. Have you ever heard of that before?
I've heard of it now. Yeah.
Back in the 90s, it was a little experimental back in the day, so it kind of looked like shit. But we got to really, but now it's literally everywhere. But back in the 90s, the original Tron experimented a lot with the green screen and had fully green screen sets. They were one of the first movies to do that, really. So they were like on the frontier. And for better or for worse, we got green screen now, so is what it is.
Is
Um,
what it is.
and but then Tron, nothing happens with Tron for a long time. Then this movie comes out called Tron Legacy. And man, that was one of the greatest movies I've ever watched in a theater in my entire life.
Really?
Like, it was such a visual treat. The entire score was, the entire movie was scored by a little band, a little music group called Daft Punk. Maybe you've
Yes.
heard of them.
Yes. I've heard this. Yes.
Yep. And it was, I remember as a kid, I downloaded the entire sound. It was like I only did nothing but listen to that movie soundtrack, I think, for an entire year. I'm pretty sure. Because it was just so well done. It holds a very special place in my heart. I'm glad we're getting a sequel. The whole movie was about just becoming a different person. Like that's what it really boils down to a lot. Maybe I'll rewatch it tonight. I was tearing up thinking about it now. But the whole movie is just about becoming a different, better person, and like what could happen if you could like almost talk to your old self, and like what would it be like?
Yeah. All right. Cool.
So yeah.
Yeah, apparently on October 24th, Mortal Kombat 2 is coming out. Now, I don't know if there's any truth to this, but that's what's on the schedule. I did watch the first Mortal Kombat, the recent one. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't very good. So, then November 7th is Predator Badlands, more Predator movies. I've seen 2 Predator movies in my whole life.
Yeah. I like the original Predator movie. It was really badass. It was just kind of, I don't know, it was a lot of fun. I watched a new Predator movie, which is really good too. The more recent one, where
The one
it was
on
called
Hulu?
Prey.
Yeah.
It was called Prey, I think, or something like that. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was really good.
that's the first Predator movie under Disney's ownership because Disney bought Fox.
Yeah.
And I remember people were saying they're gonna ruin the Predator franchise and the Alien franchise. They're gonna ruin it. Disney's gonna make it all PG and terrible. And then people were like, "Oh my God, it's like the best thing ever." So anyway, yes. And then on November 14th is Now You See Me 3. I've never seen any of them because I hate Jesse Eisenberg. November 26th is Zootopia 2. Yes, another sequel. Zootopia. Woohoo.
Oh, we desynced. It happened. We desynced.
We desynced.
We desynced. There's like 5 or 3 seconds, I think.
Well, it's okay because it seems like
It's coming
fine.
back in.
Yeah.
It's coming back in now. Yeah, it's
fine.
slowly resyncing. That's so strange.
Yeah.
I think it's your internet and your computer combined to like just make it rough. I think that's what really happens. I think it's like both.
Hey, listen here,
Double
buddy.
equation.
Yeah, it's probably true. December 5th will be Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Did you watch the first one?
I did. I really enjoyed it. I thought the movie was a ton of fun. I'm excited for the next one. Because like this is one of the things where it came out where the movie was obviously made for fans, but obviously it was also designed to be a movie, And then it was being in large parts bankrolled by the guy who made Five Nights at Freddy's and like became a multi-billionaire, like basically essentially by making one of the most popular horror movie game franchises of all time. That is turned into a fandom that is like consumed, like essentially Markiplier built his career on, one of the biggest YouTubers in history, just it's so I don't know what else to tell you. All the suits were handmade by the Jim Henson Puppet Company. They made 3 different versions of each suit. One that could have the one that could have a real life actor in it, one that was completely controlled by puppetry, and another one that was like a real stationary animatronic. You can't, and they rebuilt the whole set, and then they had those suits interacting with that set. Like, you know me, I love shit like that. Like, I love when they put in effort. It's not just mindless green screen and here's the 3D animated suit, like coming to threaten you.
Yeah.
It's just it's different. It's so I'm excited for it. Hopefully it'll be better and like hopefully it'll take the original idea of the movie and just move it up to 100%.
Yeah. Well.
Yep.
So you remember Barbenheimer, right? So Barbie and Oppenheimer both came out like the same weekend, and it became Barbenheimer because they're like these juxtapositioned movies. Like one is Happy Barbie, and one is like crazy, mentally traumatizing Oppenheimer, right? And so it was coined Barbenheimer. And this year we had, I think Gladiator and Moana came out on the same, or was it no, Gladiator and Wicked, and they called it Glicked, but that didn't really catch on very much. But prepare yourself for 2025's version coming out if it happens, because some of these things might move. But if it happens on December 19th, we're gonna have Avatar: Fire and Ash and the SpongeBob movie Search for SquarePants.
Damn.
What do you think of that? Spongeatar or Avasponge?
Avabob.
Avabob.
We got to stack gear.
Bobatar. I don't know.
Avatar.
I don't know. I'm not a TikToker, so I don't really, I don't know what they're gonna come up with over there on that crazy website that has like 90 days to sell or whatever. But yeah, that's the movie plan for this year. And there's a couple in there we'll see for sure. The Marvel ones, and who knows what else. Superman.
Yep.
Yeah, Superman.
Superman.
Yeah.
Hope for the best.
Yeah, but no Star Wars this year. No Star Wars movies this year.
Nope.
So, that's sad. But, then 2026 will be The Mandalorian and Grogu. And apparently in December of 2026, you're also going to get Ice Age 6 and Shrek 5. How do you beat that?
Wow.
Right?
Yeah. We're getting really deep in the numbers here, aren't we? Here, Cage. The numbers are really starting to get really high on some of these things. Like it's literally like we're achieving the meme society, right? Where like when you go around in GTA 5, like there's all these advertisements for shoot him up, kill him 5, like and it's starting to really sound like that in real life, like man.
Yeah. That's where we're at. Yeah. That's where we're at. So
yeah.
Anyway, I think we've wasted enough time to call this a full episode of a podcast.
Yep.
So yeah, we'll wrap up. Share your thoughts. Do all the things. Click the buttons, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everybody. Say bye. You have to say bye before I click the button.
Bye.